Everybody knows the inspirational and humble beginnings of CDProjektRed. Once the Berlin Wall had fallen in '89, ambitious Poland's would then reclaim their culture, their land, and create anew as the Soviet trade union was dissolved. And not even 4 years later, this small group of people had the aspirations to create their own video games by being one of the first companies to translate English video games into Polish and other European languages. And video games became more and more popular in the 90s, and to this day are the most popular and most profitable form of entertainment into the new century. And it is my opinion that video games are the best form of entertainment. No medium is capable of the fun, repetitive, peak action, and epics with the unique storytelling that has you attached to characters you follow, spending up to 20, 40 hours in gameplay alone, with cutscenes where you see them at their highs to their lows, to ultimately see them triumph on top with their own happy ending. But along with video games, specifically fantasy, is popular in Europe because it's obviously the birthplace of the genre. And one of the first games that CDPR translated into Polish was Baldur's Gate. So we know that fantasy and role-playing games is treasured across many in Europe, with folklore and authors that even us in America love today, J.R.R. Tolkien with Lord of the Rings, Michael Moorcock's Eldritch, and Polish authors Andrzej Sapkowski's The Witcher, which, depending on who you ask, The Witcher is deeply inspired, if not ripped off, by Michael Moorcock's work.
I'm Razor Fist! God fucking speed!
But regardless, The Witcher is a classic that is loved in Poland, and the combination of role-playing video games and the story of Geralt of Rivia together was one of the most nourished and beloved video game IPs to have ever been born. I've never seen such continuity handled with so much love and care from a book to a video game, and it being a sequel of all things. This is art. The translation from words from books to a page to a full video game with sequels is art. And with all industries, there are handcrafted, made with love, mom and pop shops, and large corporatization with large investments, margins to fill, that kill the soul that is creating stories and art. And I do believe that video games are a form of art. And the only way that we get stories, video games, TV shows, movies like this is when investors, owners, and higher ups of these companies allow their creatives to create freely, as they target what would make their fans and supporters happy with the product, not just dumbing everything down to a generic audience to try to triple or double their profits, which usually results in them doubling the budgets too, which is another problem. But CD Projekt Red is turning into the corporals, into the big corporatized corporations that they criticize in their latest title, Cyberpunk. I hope you enjoyed my little video, my intro to my appreciation for the Witcher series and for Cyberpunk. You know, I liked Cyberpunk. I thought we were advertised such this immersive experience that we waited years for it to come out, and we're just all those promises were underdelivered. But once the game got updated and fixed and patched up, it's a pretty solid game. I like it, you know, for what it is, of course. But for the reason why we're all here to get to the news, it's old news, but CDPR's latest virtue signal for that sweet, sweet ESG money. And we know why they need the ESG money. They risked the higher ups. Again, we're not talking about the game developers. And I'll try to stay on topic as I can. We're not talking about the game developers. We're talking about the company CD Projekt Red. Because after The Witcher 3 came out, they became a AAA company overnight and corporatized quick, right? Businessmen that have no ideas got to come in and try to triple the profits of video games, really, because they're so profitable. So we're talking about what the higher ups are doing and what they think will make them money. The higher ups are what rushed the game. The higher ups investors are what wanted it to be on last gen and next gen because they didn't want to leave any money on the table. When the developers would report, yeah, this thing isn't going to run on previous gen, like we shouldn't do it, and they were like, no, we'll make two versions of it, right? And that that delayed the game, that added more work to what they had to do, and they didn't even delay the game after they delayed the game again, if that makes sense. But so CDPR is doing a lot more than just virtue signaling to get that ESG money to what these higher ups think is profitable. If you go to even to their website, they talk about diversity and inclusion, and specifically the scholarships called Girls in Gaming that they are giving to female high school students, which I'm have no problem with this. I think this is really cool. If they want to do this, doesn't bother me at all. But we know that the point of virtue signaling from these companies is not to open the door for qualified women or qualified diversity hires to come in. It's to just get those numbers in. Oh, 30%, 40%, 50% of our staff are are women and people of color. That's what's important. It doesn't matter if you are qualified. These programs, you're just a number to them. They're just a number for them so that they can virtue signal and virtue signal to that general audience that I mentioned before. That they're not the fans that care about the IP and the stories. It's that general audience that they think diversity and inclusion is cool. It's hip. It's the new thing to advertise for. But first and foremost, we got to make it clear that the Cyberpunk teaser trailer came out in 2013, I believe, and it's been broken by multiple news sources quietly. A lot of people didn't know this or didn't really talk about it. Cyberpunk didn't even start developing until 2016. That means it's a normal 4 year old game. And most normal games take only 4 years to make. And normal games today still come out broken, let alone a big open world immersive um, game that CD Projekt Red releases, games like Bethesda release. 4 years is just not enough for these type of open world RPG games. And The Witcher 3 was actually in development during Witcher 2, right? So they wasted a lot of time and resources working on The Witcher 3 during Witcher 2. So there's a lot of time and resources that were developed in a game like Witcher 3 that Cyberpunk only had 4 years to do. And all the other shenanigans that the higher ups were pushing. But it's not only the company CD Projekt Red, it is also the investors. Both CDPR, the company, and investors are blaming the REDengine for the delay. They're not taking any responsibility for rushing the game, for putting the unnecessary, unrealistic things that they wanted the devs to do. You know, oh, it's got to work on previous gen and it's got to work on next gen. And so you may not think this is a big deal. But let's go over this IGN article where they talk about The Witcher 4. CD Projekt Red explains why it is switching from the Red Engine to Epic's Unreal Engine 5. And they're doing this because the investors are blaming the Red Engine for the disaster of a launch that Cyberpunk had. And CD Projekt Red themselves made the comment, you need a really stable environment. An unstable environment that they caused, not the devs and not the engine. So let's go to the art director from CD Projekt Red, Jacob Kidnop, whatever his stupid name is. He goes on to say the fact that Unreal is used by, and here it is, a lot of teams already in the world, a lot of perspectives are projected into the design of the tools that helps the tools to be way more agile or easier. And he is talking about the engine, not the people that work on the engine. He's saying that the engine is basically just easier to use. So, but he still doubles down and says CDPR will benefit from the ideas of other Unreal users. And so the point I'm trying to make is they are CD Projekt Red has such big aspirations. They've taken this amazing trilogy and great idea with Cyberpunk, and they're just trying to quadruple the budgets, quadruple the scope, so that they can print and triple their money. When they're gonna lose their soul if they do that. The Red engine was tailor made over time to make RPGs with multiple paths, with multiple dialogue options. It made it easier for the people that made the game to keep making the game. And so this is why I think this is the biggest red flag that CD Projekt is making, going to Unreal Engine, a generic engine, so that they can hire more diversity hires and they can hire more people around the world so that they can just make more fodder, not make Witcher 3s, not make Witcher 2, you know, not even to improve Cyberpunk. And we can see that illustrated perfectly here. Wikipedia kind of has a nice table to show us. But, and all the articles, I have all the articles too, if anyone's curious. But the point is that they have one, two, three, four, five, six, because this is a trilogy, 7 projects that they have announced. The scope is just quadrupled their line of work. And if you can see, so let's go over these projects. Project Hadar is an original IP coming from CDPR. Orion is not even in Warsaw, Poland. It's in the Boston studio in America. They're going to be making the sequel to Cyberpunk. So we'll see how that goes. And then they already announced The Witcher 4 as a trilogy. And we can assume it's going to be about Ciri. And this is the biggest problem that people have is they don't want their favorite characters to be bastardized and destroyed. This is why we don't like sequels. And the Witcher franchise as a video game was already a sequel to a book. It's a bad idea, but they pulled it off so great. And then we have another Witcher game that's going to be multiplayer, and this is going to be a prequel, right? It's going to be all the Witcher schools before they were taken down. So people have different opinions about whether this is going to be good or well that's going to be good. That's not what we're going to be talking about today. People that I've been talking with on social media and on the internet, we've all been talking about how it's really a new century of video games where we grew up with all these great video games and TV shows and movies in the 2000s, and then it's 2020 and we think a sequel is going to actually be the sequel. But the point is the people that worked on these projects that we love don't work there anymore. And so can they carry on that legacy? And one of the biggest engagements that I've gotten on YouTube in a long time was over this clip of Charlie Moist Critical saying that he thinks GTA 6 is going to be a flop. And a lot of people agree the leading devs that made these games, they don't work there anymore. And so it's a big like setup that can easily not be executed well. And so there's a lot of worrying that we have um, for the future of CD Projekt Red. The more mainstream they get, the more corporatized they get. I think its soul is dying, and the biggest component of that is going to this new engine, taking away what made them special, and just hiring more diversity, hiring more voices, and just becoming another generic AAA game. And it's really sad to see. Thank you for watching. Leave a comment below. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you think. And check out my links to my Kick and Rumble. I want to start streaming Witcher again with all this Witcher talk. So, yeah. Give me a follow. Thanks for watching, and later.